Yeah, I'm going to do a fair use under the Section 107, Copyright Act 1976. Fair use, fair use. Yeah, Barakatah Yahawah, Barakatah Yahawashi. I want to give all praises, all honor, and all glory unto Yahawah, BaHaSham, Yahawashi, BaHaSham, Rawchaa QaDash. I give double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well. To the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds, preaching in truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect, Shalom. To the Israelite foreigners who phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father and have come back to the fold, Shalom. To sisters Yahawah who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence. This your brother Aram Yahawah with the lesson.
World War I, white people. World War II, white people. The Vietnam War, white people. Slavery, white people. Systemic racism, white people. Racism in general, white people. Thousands of years of Asian history being wiped off this planet, white people. Africa decentralized for decades. South America decentralized for decades. The Middle East decentralized for decades, white people. Capitalism, white people. Fascism in America, white people. Oh, look at that, you're Christian. Bet. Christianity being used to justify slavery? White people. Christianity being used to justify massacring Native Americans? White people. There's a fake Christian that sold Bibles with his own names on it sitting in the White House right now that was built and maintained by slaves. This motherfucker's white. Who led Germany during the 1930s? A white Christian. Which group of people colonized Africa? White Christians. Klan members. White Christians. St. Peter's Cross being misunderstood as a symbol of Satanism. White people. Border problems. White people. White people.
Genesis chapter 27, verse 38. And Esau said unto his father, Has thus but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. Right, speaking to Isaac, right? Because Isaac was Jacob and Esau's father, right? Through the spirit, right? Isaac is Yahawashi. Or, Yahawashi was Isaac through the regeneration, through the spirit, if thou can tell, right? If you have understanding, if you have ears to hear and eyes to see, you would see that he was Isaac, right? And of course, Jacob had already supplanted and got the blessing, right? Because first of all, it was meant to be, because the father said it from the beginning. The elder shall serve the younger, which means slave. And Esau came out to be the elder. So he's meant to serve, to be the slave, to be under Jacob. So the Lord had already set it up before they even came out of the womb. It tells you that in Romans 9 also, right? But Esau, this is the part where Esau is upset because Jacob took the blessing that belonged to him. I mean, he had to supplant to get what belonged to him, because Esau had already sold it to him. See, if Esau was a upright person, he would have told his dad, "Hey, well, Dad, I already sold it to Jacob, so you got to give it to Jacob. There's no need for me to go out to the woods and to the field and go hunt for anything. That way you didn't come back and be all surprised that Jacob had to supplant to get the blessing, because you weren't going to be man enough to say, yeah, I already sold it. You didn't do that. So that's why now you're crying. Is there a blessing for me, even me also? Right? That's what you're saying. Oh, my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. So now you're just crying. Right? You're crying for no reason, because you're the one who did it. You did it to yourself at the end of the day. Yeah, and Esau, I'll read it again. And Esau said unto his father, Has thus but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Esau, and Isaac's like it. And Isaac, his father, which was Yahawashi, if you could receive it, right? Because that's going to be a significance Later on, his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwellings, right? So, hey, you want the blessing? Thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven from above, and by thy sword, right, your weapons of war, shall thou live. So you're going to get all these things, but you're going to do it by the sword, right? And shalt serve thy brother Jacob, right? During the time of was it King David? They were in servitude, slavery under King David. They were in slavery under Solomon, I believe, Solomon's son. But then I believe when is it Rehoboam? Rehoboam? Yeah, Solomon's son's Rehoboam. But once he basically died, his son, and I think they revolted, and they came off from under the underneath Judites from being slave underneath them. But then, of course, later on, during the time of what they called the Dark Ages or the Byzantine Empire, they went into slavery again, right, under Jake, all through Europe, right? They were slaves again, right? Well, some of them. Then, of course, you had the other ones that were in the Caucasus Mountains. But the ones that didn't go into the Caucasus Mountain, they were slaves under the what they call the Dark Ages of the Byzantine Empire, right? And it says, and it shall come to pass when thou shalt have dominion, right, rulership over the world, right, which eventually they did during the time of Alexander the Great, right? I mean, during the time of the 12 Caesars, right? And then after the 12 Caesars ruled, Rome continued, but it was under Jake, and Jake scattered into different interiors of parts of the world over in Europe and what they call Europe or Eurasia, Asia, different places, west coast of Africa, right? That's where Jake scattered to, right? So of course, when Esau gets the dominion and his anger when he comes out of the Caucasus Mountains, this time he the anger, he wants revenge, right, for being enslaved and being under, right, being in the caves, brazen as a donkey or ass, mule, whatever you want to call it. He's upset about that because prior to that, he was, the Roman Empire, right? Speaking several different languages, Greek, Latin, can write it. They can write in Greek, Latin, and Hebrew, right? So he came back angry, right? That thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. And so when, the time of them coming out of the caves, the Caucasus Mountains, this very last time, right? Because that's where we're at right now. We're at the very last time, because of course, so I'm just going to, right now. It says Esau hated Jacob, and that's where you're at right now. You so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians, they hate you, right? Because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, La'ab, his mind, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Yeah, I said it right. The days of my father of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. And that's where they're at right now. Bringing in the militaries, the troops, all these different things, pushing forth the charagma, which is the mark of the beast. And this is where you're at now, right? Yeah, so this is Revelation chapter 20, verse 1. And I saw an angel coming down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and great chains in his hand, right? And laid hold on the dragon, which that's dealing with them when they became the Roman Empire, right? When they fell from their power as the Roman Empire, right? Because they were initially from Mount Seir, but of course they came out of Mount Seir and you know, started conquering the world, in their time. First with the Greeks, then with the Romans, and then this is significant because what Roman was known as the red dragon, right? And that's Esau. Esau's known as Edom, which means Ashashua. Not Shashua. Shashua means wasted away. But Edom, Adawam, Salakia, Adawam meaning red, right? He's that red dragon, right? Which is the Roman Empire. And he's that dragon or that serpent that started from the Garden of Eden, and the power and the wisdom that he's gotten. A snake is already wise, but a dragon, that's why they even call it in the Ku Klux Klan, it's called a grand dragon, right? So when their power and their significance and their witchcraft and their what is it called? Their influence is super powerful in the earth, and there was no more time that their thing was more powerful than the time when they were the Roman Empire, right? That the right it goes back to that. Dang, that's beautiful. Because I was just trying to explain it. That the old serpent, going back into the Garden of Eden, it was that serpent, which is the devil, right? Which means the false accuser, and Satan, which means your adversary. He's automatically the adversary of you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians from the garden. And this is what with the power the Most High declared him through his only begotten Son, through the prophets, right? Because there were prophets that spoke to them and gave them the decree from the Father and the Son, right? Through the Father. Well, because the Son was there, but through the Father, right? But the Son is in agreement with the Father, Salakia, because at that time the Son had been on earth, right, as Adam. But I mean the Father, right? And but the prophets gave the decree, because the prophets have always been Salakia, right? But the Son is in agreement with the Father always, right? Because this is the Lord's movie. At the end of the day, it's how He wanted His story to go, right? And bound him 1,000 years, right? Meaning dust, right? Confusion, right? I don't know if it goes into that. Let's see if I guess so. I'll keep on going. And cast him into the bottomless pit, right? Which would be the Caucasus Mountains, that place in Europe, South Georgia, because I believe on one part of it's Russia, another part it's what they call Europe, or it's basically Eurasia. But really, it's all Asia, but they break it down to where it's like Europe. So so you understand. But basically, it's Eurasia, and the Caucasus go right between where Asia and Europe, what they call Europe is, or Russia, right? Because really that whole landmass, which should be called Asia, but just to give you understand, that's Russia, and Europe is on that other side, which it goes right between it. So it's basically Russia and Asia. That's why they a lot of times the elite try to remind Putin that he's Europe, he's European. Remember, you're European like us, right? Remember, right? Because they're Edomites. So, but it cast him down into the bottomless pit to shut him up, right? And set a seal upon him, right? And that's that being able to well, it's to eat the dust, the confusion. Put a seal upon him, put the confusion upon him. It's the dust, right? Upon him that he should deceive the nations no more, right? Right? That's what I was talking about, that great influence. the great influence that he has, right? And not to mention the sword, right? It said that his blessing was the sword. You can go around the world, and we know the conquest of Rome, right? And even Greece, right? They went and conquered all these different lands, right? No more can deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be filled, and after that he must be loosed a little season. So you're gonna come out. They're only gonna rule just a little season, right? Yeah. So this is Genesis chapter 3, verse 14. It says, and Yahawah, right? The power, Yahawah, and we say Yahawah BaHaSham because at this point it was just Yahawah at that time. On this part right here, it's Yahawah, but we know because now we have our way back to Yahawah through Yahawashi. So it's I would make sure I reference Yahawashi because without Yahawashi we're nothing, right? So Yahawah BaHaSham, Yahawashi BaHaSham QaDash, power, said unto the serpent, right? Come, thou has done this, right? Because thus has done this, like it. Because thus has done this, right? Talking about to the serpent. That's the same spirit that became into Cain, which slew Abel, and that same spirit of Cain is in Esau, right? Which has a desire to kill his brother Jacob, being that his father, the mourning for his father is at hand. There's no, there's no more mourning for his father is at hand because he's not reverencing the Most High, right? He's not reverencing Yahawashi. His thing is he hates you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Indians so much that he'll destroy himself. If he feel like he gets some type of satisfaction by destroying you, and this stems all the way back into the very beginning of that hatred, right? Showing that says that the old serpent, and this is that it, and Yahawah BaHaSham, Yahawashi BaHaSham QaDash said unto the serpent, that old serpent, right? Because thus hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, right? They're cursed above all the nations. They're the only nation that cannot repent. So above all the other nations, this is going to be the one nation that can't repent, right? And above all the beasts of the field, which basically meaning the nations, right? And above all the beasts of the field, and upon thy belly shall thus go, right? And when he got pushed into the Caucasus Mountains, he was on his belly. A lot of those caves was, it wasn't a standing room. You had to kind of go through certain parts low, and you had to crawl to get to another part. And maybe once you got to the other part, you could probably stand up over there, or it's just short space. But it was a different kind of mountain compared to when they had Mount Seir. Mount Seir, they should have stayed at Mount Seir. But of course, they have this thing where the Lord said, "Hey, you're going to get the fatness of the earth." This is their desire to have the fatness of the earth, right? But it's what? By the sword, right? And they did that during the time of the Greeks and during the time of the Romans, right? But we're just mostly try to keep it to this time period if I can, Lord will. And upon thy belly shall thus go, and thus shall thus eat all the days of thy life, which that goes into the confusion, right? And that was them not being able to deceive the earth for a time period, right? Closing down their way of being able to speak, because they went from being the Roman Empire, being able to write in Hebrew and Greek and Latin, to grunting as a ass, a donkey, a mule, however you want to say it, right? That's a low thing. How the Lord can bring you down, right? It's a low estate, and you just confusion, and basically it took away their ability to have influence in the earth. Because who's gonna listen to this guy? Who you're looking at him like he's nothing, right? You know what I'm saying? They're wearing the underwears till it frays off, and they're dirty. They don't take a bath, don't take a shower. They're over there eating lice off each other. Yeah, crazy madness. So that just took away their whole influence, that whole luster of how people just love the Edomite, the self-proclaimed so-called white man, right? And the Lord, and then they're our enemy, right? It said the devil, the false accuser, right? And Satan means adversary, and right here it says, and I will put enmity, which means your adversary, enemy, between thee and the woman. The woman is Israel, right? You Israelites, you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians, and between thy seed, which are the Edomites that you see today, the self-proclaimed so-called white man, starting with the elite, your Rothschilds, your Bilderbergs, the DuPonts, the Gettys, the Oppenheimers. They're the main ones that hate you, but then you still have these low-level Edomites that hate you too, even though they're in the same position as you. Their thing is they have a little bit of so-called white privilege, and then they try to deny the white privilege as they try to beat you over the head with, oh, what about Chicago, or what about this, and saying all these different things about SNAP and food, and saying you're just late. But then come to find out, hey, they're the biggest recipient of all these different things and all these benefits, and then come to find out the one who's really lazy is you, right? But that's no here nor there. Let's stay on to the topic. But it's going to be between, and that's their hatred, that inter-hatred, which stems back from the wound in Rebecca, that fighting that Jacob and Esau from the beginning, because we're two manner of people. There's righteousness and wickedness. It can't be in the same space, right? And that's why I said between thy seed and her seed, it shall bruise thy head, right? Which talking to the serpent, the serpent's head will be bruised, and thou shall bruise his heel, right? Meaning it's talking about Jacob, right? You know what I mean? Right? Yeah. So this is Revelations chapter 13, verse 11. And I beheld, right, which means to look, feast your eyes, look, pay attention. Another beast came up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, right? Two horns representing that what do they call it? Trying to think of it. It's another word. I'll just say yin, the yin and yang, right? The good and evil, right? Which that's what they use, especially being Masons. They use that the black and white checkered thing and the contrast, and they use the good cop bad cop sort of speak, which really they have the same agenda. So you had the plebeians and the patricians going to the back when they were Rome, but then you also have what the Democrats and the Republicans, right? And they'll call it a democracy, and it makes it look like you're voting and you have a choice and you have this and that, but really, which they showed you that. Remember when Trump got elected the first time, they made him look like a straight up so-called racist, because remember his first dude one of the dudes that he brought out of retirement was a known Ku Klux Klan person, and they let that be known, which that was on purpose, that was intentional. Then they started doing things, and then like I said, the regular Edomites, because they're your enemy too, even though they're in the same boat, because these elite don't like them either, but they will use them. And when they seen a chance to be better than you, they were locking the what they call the Waffle Houses, and then not letting so-called black people come in, and it'll be white people just eating at the Waffle Houses. So they showed you, oh shoot, this guy's racist. He's gonna bring in, oh no. So people were getting all outrageous, even though the stock market was doing good, gas was down. People were so wrapped up in this whole racism thing that they missed time to just, hey, it was time to not even worry about that and just get your money up, do your things, get your things together. Then of course they brought in the the CV-19, and then everybody wanted to get him out of there because it seemed so racist. And then it seemed like, well, shit, Biden got to be the best thing. He got to be. Then Biden got in there. It was so terrible with the way the gas prices and food price and everything went up. Now and then Biden really was looking like Sleepy Joe, falling off bikes, falling downstairs. You're like, oh my God, this can't be real. We went from bad to worse, right? At least when you felt, well, oh, let's get Trump back. And now you're in hell. You're in hell. So they played one against the other, but really they're all for the same agenda. You thought one was bad and the other one was good, and you thought, hey, well, we got to pick the lesser of two evils or whatever you want to say, but it's still evil, and that's what they're going to show you. And now that's where you're at. Two horns like a lamb, right? Talking about their Christian nation. They believe in the Bible. They believe in being meekness. They believe in forgiveness, but ain't no forgiveness. They're over there ripping the shreds out of Haiti, right? They're over in Nigeria killing those people, right? Doing all sorts of things to Nigeria, right? And then trying to use it off as pawns to talk about some type of Christian thing against the Muslims and the Christians against the Muslims to get the energy off of the G side over there in Gaza. Everything's for a reason. So you play the good cop against the bad cop, so to speak, thing, right? And that's how they use it. But really, it's all bad. And now they're coming to the point where he's bringing in the military. He's doing all these different things, and he's and speaking as a dragon, right? Going into draconian laws, bringing in the Palantir, bringing in what's it called? Public executions. That's what's about to happen, right? And he exercises all the power of the first beast, going back into the Roman Empire, because they used to do that, public executions, right? And what they said was law. They went to different countries, different places, and conquered them. So now they over there talking about, what is he doing? He said, I'm going to go and invade Venezuela. I'm going to invade Mexico. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to invade the streets of America. This dude is going all out, right? And he's exercising all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth causeth the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast. Going back into to the Roman Empire, right? Going back into that, because if you don't comply, you must die, right? And this time, it's a lot more technocracy, right? That they're going to be able to use, right? Whose deadly wound was healed. See, and that's the time of them being the Roman Empire coming back. Showing you, what was the thing called? The Roman Treaty in 1950 something. Showing you that NATO, EU, and America is all tied together. And they know that it don't really say America on there, but we know. Because that's why they have NATO. They have the.
The Treaty of Rome, a 1957 agreement, set up the European Economic Community and the European Atomic Energy Community, forming the basis for the European Union. It aimed to create a common market with free movement of goods, people, services, and capital, establishing key institutions like the Council of Ministers. For legal advice, consult a professional.
Right. So they got reintroduced. So they know who they are. The one with the deadly wound that was healed and returned, but they should rule a short space. So from 1957 to 2025, and we see that their whole world is collapsing because the truth is out there and it's constantly being pushed by the men of the Lord, and even other so-called truthers, right? They see it, Yeah, so this is Revelation chapter 20, verse 7. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan, which is your adversary, you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians, whether you know it or not, right? Satan is your adversary. He's your enemy, right? He says he's going to make enmity between thy seed, the seed of the devil, of the serpent, and the seed of the woman to be at enmity, right? Enemies, right? Matter of fact, there's another scripture that says the Lord shall make war with Amalek from generation to generation. Man, I'm gonna have to get that one, right? Because showing you Amalek is, well, let's get that too. Because Amalek is the chief of the nations. And guess who paid for the slave ships? Amalek, right? He was the bankers, the international bankers, the one that insured the slaves. So if a slave died, the slave master still got paid, you know? And yeah, when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan, which is your enemy, shall be loose out of his prison, right? Right. Yeah. So this is Exodus chapter 17, verse 16. For he said, because Yahawah, BaHaSham, Yahawashi, have sworn that Yahawah, BaHaSham, Yahawashi, will have war with Amalek from generation to generation, which is the grandson of Esau, Edom, right? You know, and you're going to have war with him from generation to generation, right? So this has been going on for a very long time, right? Yeah, so this is Numbers chapter 24, verse 20. And when he looked on Amalek, he took up his parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, right? Of the heathen nations, which that's what he is doing right now, because he's the international bankers. He's the one who runs and funds everything, right? No one can do nothing. If you want to fight a war or whatever, you got to go through him, and it got to be sanctioned, right? That's why there's wars and then rumors of wars, right? All because of Amalek. World War I was because of Amalek. World War II is because of Amalek. Hey, and World War III is going to be because of Amalek. But that's going to be the final war that's going to be. There ain't going to be any more wars. That's the time Yahawashi is going to come on the scene, which World War III is basically, it's kind of already happening, but it's not fully implemented right now. It's not full, just like you're having everything is pretty much happening. You're pretty much having the race wars, but it's not on a full scale. You're having a martial law, but it's not fully on full scale, right? You're even having food crisis, but it's not fully all the way there, right? You having pestilence. They naming diseases every day. Oh, this is here and this is all sorts of disease. So you got the pestilence, right? You're hearing about people getting bit by bears or mountain lions. So even the beast of the field, right? That says the beasts shall change their places. That's all happening right now. So everything is in place, man. The charagma is being implemented and used at this point. It's just not on full. It's not fully there. But you could see that the mark of the beast is the RFID micro C-hip, period, right? The digital ID showing you what they're doing. They're pushing it all this year, right? So they're bringing it down, which they're going to rule by draconian laws. They're going to speak as a dragon, right? And and Amalek, and it says, and when he looked on Amalek, he took up his parable, and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, but at his last, when World War III happens, right? At his latter end shall be that he perish what? Forever. Right? So you're going to serve your 1,000 years of slavery, and then you're going to get Obadiah 1 and 18, and you're going to be gone forever. And then all that's not just going to be you. You're going to wrap all the Edomites up with what you're doing. Right? All you Edomites are going to perish for what Amalek has done, and in your own self-hatred. You have the hatred towards, because hey, when the morning is through with your father, you want to slay your brother Jacob, which is the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians and the Israelites that are scattered around the world, because we got a different spirit than your spirit. All right? Yeah. So this is Matthew chapter 26, right? Because it's going to be their last end, right? And that's their whole thing, by the sword, right? Going into World War III, and it says, then said Yahawashi unto him, put up again thy sword into his place, for all that take the sword shall perish with the sword. And that's Esau, man. He took the world by the sword, right? Being the Greeks, right? The Roman Empire. And then when he came here in America, how did he get America? Through the sword. How did he get South Africa? Through the sword. Australia, through the sword, right? All these places, Mexico, Puerto Rico, Canada, right? The entire world. It says you get the fatness of the earth by the sword, right? They're in different places all in the Middle East. They're all Russia, right? These Edomites, they have the world right now, right? Then said Yahawashi to him, put your sword back in its place. For all these, right? So Matthew 26 and 52, right? If you didn't hear me say it, I'm going to say it again, just in case I didn't say it. And this is the Amplified version now. Then Yahawashi said unto him, put your sword back in its place, for all those who habitually draw the sword, right? And that's Esau, man. Everything is pulling out the sword back in those days. And the modern day sword now is the gun, which also is the ICBM missiles, right? Right? That's the sword. That's the glittering sword, the Lord's glittering sword, right? Which is going to come upon Idumea, right? Which is a chief place of Esau, right? And now that's here, America, Babylon the Great, right? Habitually draw out the sword, will die by the sword. You're going to die by these ICBM missiles. You're going to die in the Third World War, and you shall not return ever again, right? You're going to perish forever, right? So, and then what it says, oh yeah, forgot about that too, right? Because you got the seven heads, and the eighth one came out, which is America, coming out from basically Europe, right? And America came out of Europe, right? And then when that, that's when they should be loose, right? Conquer the world, right? Being Cristobal Colon, coming from Europe, coming into the Americas, starting the transatlantic slave trade, which gave them great riches, power, influence, and then they started taking over the world again, right? And it shall go out, right? Be loosed out of the prison, and shall go out and out to deceive, right? Because they said they're going to shut them up. They're going to have their own influence. They won't be able to speak. They won't be able to know the different languages to speak to deceive the world. But this time they're going to and shall go out to deceive the nations, right? The Lord's giving them their ability to speak again, right? They're not grunting as donkeys, asses, mules, right? Whatever, which are the four or are in the four corners of the earth. And when they were the Roman Empire, there was no fourth part of the earth. That it's speaking to now. Well, now that they're in America, showing that short space had to include Cristobal Colon, right? To come over here through St. Amos fire to lead them, right, which is the chariots of Yahawah BaHaSham, to lead them here so they could punish Jake, so Jake could be oppressed here together, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, right? So Judah and Ephraim could be oppressed together, and it fulfills prophecy, right, of them going into hardcore slavery, bondage, Jim Crow, redlining, beatings, being misled, miseducated. All these different things must have had happen so they can rule that little. It said a little while, or a little space, or a little season. It said Salakia, right? And in order for that to happen, it had to have four corners of the earth. And then like I said, the last thing is World War III, and Gog of Magog, and to gather them together to the battle, to World War III. So all has to happen in order for World War III to come. The number of them is as the sands of the sea, right? Dealing with that great number that Putin's going to have. He's going to have a great multitude ready for war. And they went up on the breadth of the earth and compass the camp of the saints going into what that place Amalek is at, right? Where he G-siding at. And upon the beloved city, which that's where they at there in Israel, right? And fire come down from the power, BaHaSham out of heaven to devour them, right? And that's Yahawashi is going to basically interrupt the third war's war. And it says nothing's going to be left nor perceive, but only dust and smell of smoke from that, right? In the time of World War III, right? Right? Yeah. So as the new Roman Empire, one with the deadly wound that was healed, right? Being the Treaty of Rome, being that America stems from Europe, came over here during the time of Christopher Columbus till now, that they're ruling all this stuff all the way from Canada, all the way down to all Central and South America, Colombia, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, all these different places that they ruled, Jamaica, the whole world pretty much, right? And it said that that's how they were going to get it, by the sword, right? And there was given him a mouth speaking great things, right? Being able to deceive the world and blaspheming and blasphemes, right? Saying that the Messiah, Yahawashi, his name is not Yahawashi, it's Jesus, right? Which we don't even like saying that name, but that's basically what they did. To lie and elongate the I and make a J sound, which never existed before, right? To say that they love Paul and these Christians, because Paul is the minister to the Gentiles, but Paul says long hair is a shame for a man to have long hair. But then their Messiah has long hair and not short hair, right? The scripture says it has woolly hair, but their Messiah don't have woolly hair, right? Feet of the color as bronze as if it burnt, but their Messiah don't have that, right? Their Messiah loves everybody, even all the heathen. But the Lord said that even their beloved Apostle Paul, right, which is really our beloved Apostle Paul, right, because they don't know what they're talking about. But just saying in a phrase, in a way, because they just Paul, and they think that's like their way out. But I'll put this to him. Well, didn't the Apostle Paul say that he loved Jacob and hated Esau, referencing to what was written before? So it's showing you that he didn't bring something out of his what, and just spoke some things out of character or out of line. All the apostles, which were disciples, which are the children of Israel, spoke of the things that was mentioned and displayed for the children of Israel, right? But that's okay. And power was given him to continue 42 months, which is that little, right? The little space, the little season, showing you that, right? And he opened his mouth and blasphemed against the power of the Most High, Yahawah, BaHaSham, and blasphemed his name, right? By changing it from Yahawah to Jehovah, from Yahawashi to JC, right? You blaspheme the name. So they blaspheme what? The Holy Spirit, right? Changing the images of the Lord, right? And you wonder why they can't be saved. That's crazy. And them that dwell in heaven, right? And that's us. They blaspheme us, right? They deceived us. They blaspheme against us. They tell you that you're not an Israelite, that you're just a heathen. You're a Gentile saved by grace, right? When really you're the Israelite, right? You so-called Black, Hispanic, and Indians of Indian and Negro descent, right? Through your Father, through the Spirit, right? You're the children of the living power, right? And it was given unto him to make war. What they're gonna do? Make war with the saints. So when they rule this short space or this little season, when they come out through Cristobal Colon, as soon as he got to the island of Hispaniola, he made war with the saints, right? Them Dominicans, them Haitians, them Puerto Ricans out on that island, because I believe they say he never made it to the actual Americas, right? But that's when he took those saints, right? And then, of course, they went back and got some more Edomites. And as they more and more, they went in westward until what we have to this very day, where they're just completely ruling over you, which he's doing the same thing again, all over again, the Edomite. He set up troops over in California, right? Then he went back and set them up in Washington. Then he went from Chicago, I think they're all the way down into to Tennessee. Memphis, right? Memphis, Tennessee, right? Yeah. Right? Memphis, yeah, Memphis. Right? Troops all over the place. Then he's saying they're going to bring more and put them into every single city. So they're going to make war with the saints. And to overcome them, and power was given him over all the kindreds, right? Over the entire world, all the kindreds and tongues and nations. He's ruling over the entire world via through what? Amalek, right? Because they say they care not who make the laws, right? Or the policies or the politics, but he care about who controls the money. They control the money. Amalek controls the money. And so that's why they're all pushing forth the digital ID right now, because Amalek controls the money, right? But they had to make war with the saints. Yeah. So it says Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 50, a nation of fierce countenance, right? That's how they came, by the sword, which shall not regard the persons of old, right? When they got here to Hispaniola and all these different places, and like I said, and continued on through all of America, what they call manifest destiny, they did not regard, right? And they were fierce. Shall not regard the persons of old, nor show favor to the young, right? And he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle, right? Did they not destroy all the buffaloes just so they can wear down Gad, right? To make war with the saints, right? And the fruit of thy land, right? Until thou be destroyed, right? And they did that until they destroyed Gad, starved them out, do all sorts of things, which also shall not leave thee either corn nor wine, right? Messing with the crops, different things, just so you have to, and that's what they about to do again. They're finna do this again. They're gonna control the food, right? And then you have to come to them, right? Yeah, not leave you, shall not leave you neither or either corn nor wine or oil or increase of thy kind or flocks or thy sheep until he have what? Destroyed thee, right? And that's what he did to Gad, right? When they finally got further west, destroyed the food, stored the livestock, the buffaloes, different things, the crops, come back around, kill the women, children when they went out to war, sneak up behind them. They did all sorts of atrocities. You know what I mean? Yeah. So just Deuteronomy 28 and 48. So therefore shall thus serve thy enemy, which Yahawah, BaHaSham Yahawashi, shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things, right? And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. And Yahawaah BaHaSham Yahawashi shall bring a nation against thee from the ends of the earth, right? And that's where the Columbus came from way from the end of the earth, way over somewhere else, right? Ends of the earth, swift as an eagle, right? Is that not the symbol of the Edomites? It's always been the symbol of the Edomites. Swift as an eagle, in which, the Lord uses it too. He said he would come with wings as an eagle, healing wing, but it represents the power, But, But you understand, symbolism is real too, though. Showing you that's what they did. That the nation came from far. As swift as an eagle flieth a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. And when Cristobal Colon came over here and all them other Edomites, whether they were French or Dutch or what's that? Portuguese, right? English, French, Portuguese, Spanish, right? You didn't know their language. You didn't know what they were talking about, right? And they came to what? Destroyed him, right? Yeah. It says, and 64, Deuteronomy 28:64, and Yahawah BaHaSham shall scatter thee, right, through the transatlantic slave trade, shall scatter thee amongst all people from one end of the earth even into the other, and there shall thus serve other gods, right? Worshiping so-called Christianity, right? Plantation Christianity, right? Worshiping whatever gods, Allah, right? Because that's what it says, worshiping other gods, which thou neither thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. And that goes into, that the wooden cross, which is so-called Christianity, and the stone, the cobblestone being Islam. You're going to walk around the cobblestone 7 times, pray to Allah, which Allah in the Hebrew just means power. That's not God. That's an attribute, and which you're a power. You're a God, right? According to the scriptures. So you're not worshiping anything worth worshiping, talking to Allah, because it doesn't exist, right? Just like JC don't exist, right? The scriptures, the Bible, Yahawashi exists in the scriptures. Now that's real. Put in the right precepts thing, that's real. But just being in there to clap hands and stump your feet, right? That's not real, right? And it says, skipping down, and Yahawah BaHaSham shall bring thee into Egypt, right? And this place is spiritually Egypt also, right? As well as Babylon, the daughter of Babylon, as well as Rome, right? The one with the deadly wound that was healed. It's also Rome, right? But the one that was the one with the deadly wound that was healed, it's here. This is here, but it's also spiritually known as Egypt. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt, right? Place of bondage, again with ships. What happened during the transatlantic slave trade? How did you get scattered, right? What it say in 64? And scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth to the other. How could you get to one end of the earth and to the other unless it's by ship, right? Transatlantic slave trade. The so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians went into slavery, whether you know it or not, whether you believe it or not. But this is the receipt, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. At one point in time, this was a shame, right? And the Lord reversed our shame and gave our shame and made our shame into glory. But for the Edomites, their glory is going to become their shame, which that's what's happening right now, right? People are finding out that they had the children of Israel in captivity, and it's bringing shame to their glory. And it says, and Yahawah BaHaSham shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships by the way whereof I spake, right? So just the way I'm telling you this, I ain't going to sugarcoat it or nothing. Unto thee, thou shalt see it no more, right? The lands, wherever place we got taken from, you never went back. Like we're still here in America. Those who got taken from the west coast of Africa, you ain't never got taken back to the west coast of Africa, or you ain't never got taken back to Jerusalem and say, hey, you know what, you guys are the Israelites. Here's some money. Here's some things. Anything we need to do to help restore you people, we got you. We'll help you rebuild the city of David. We'll help you rebuild the temple. We'll help you do all these different things. They ain't looking to do that because they refuse to let us go, right? As the scriptures say, and that proves it, right? Because this is where we're at. And it says, see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold, right, unto your enemies for bondmen, slave men, and bondwomen, slave woman, and no man shall buy you, which means redeem, right? Because if you had money, you could buy your brother or your cousin, whatever, out of slavery or out of their situation, right? But there's no one here to redeem us. That's why the Lord, no man, and not to mention the Lord said that He's not coming to meet them as a man. So a man is not coming to redeem you. A God, right? A power, angelic power is coming to redeem us. And his name is Yahawashi. See, right? Through the transatlantic slave trade, through all this thing, it was giving him power to make war with the saints, you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians, right? Right? And it said that we was going to deceive the world again, and deceive them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles, right? The technology that they're having now, right? The leaps and bounds that they had, it was amazing. You know, when it went from, it took you forever to get to one end of the country to the other, and the train was able to shorten the time. That was amazing. Then you, of course, eventually you had the car made, then the plane, and you know, leaps and bounds. And now you having it to the point where cars are driving themselves, and they're talking about AI could be your own personal doctor, and this and this and that. So you got these leaps and bounds where they're able to perform so to speak miracles, right? Which had power to do in the sight of the beast, right? Being you know, Europe, right, is the beast, right? Saying unto them that dwell on the earth, right? Which, not to mention the system too. It's not just Europe. The system, the beast system, you know, is the beast, right? You know, this Palantir, it's also the beast, which that's what's about to be pushed. So they're going to be able to do this in the sight of the beast, you know. So saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image of the beast, right? Everybody should get the digital ID. You should get the image. Everybody should get a digital ID, right? Everybody should spend digital coins, because this is that beast system now, right? The image of the beast, which had the wound by the sword and did live, right? There's just the revised Roman Empire, and now everything is technological, and had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and should cause as many, right? Going into the draconian laws, right? And it's able to speak. AI is able to speak, right? They're having these AI robots be police officers and this and that. They're gonna have them be your everything. Your doctor is gonna speak, right? And cause that as many as would not worship worship the image of the beast, because a lot of brothers ain't finna get down with this, right, man? Just plain and simple, the spirit of the Lord ain't gonna allow you, right? We just get this is where rebellion is gonna count, because it's crazy how you Jakes are rebellious when it comes to the Father, but not so much when it comes to the devil, which is your enemy. But the only way you're really going to rebel against is the spirit, and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast, of this fourth industrial technocrats, right, should be killed, right? And it says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead, and no man shall buy or sell save he that had the mark or the number, or he had the mark or the name of the beast, Salakia, or the number of his name, right? And we know that is, you know, the scores, 66. Well, and here is wisdom. Let him that have understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of man, and his number is 603 score, right? Scores is 20, so 3 scores. Yeah, 20. It'd be 60, and then it says yeah, 3 scores and 6, right? Yeah, I believe that's how you go. 6, yeah, 60, yeah, 66, 666. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry, how you go? Hundreds, right? 6 score, 600, 3 score, yeah, and then 6. So the score is, yeah, so 600, and then the three score will be 60. Then you add a 6. Boom, 666. Okay, I said it right. Yeah. So with all that, I want to give all praises, all honor, and all glory unto Yahawah, BaHaSham, Yahawashi, BaHaSham, Rawchaa QaDash. I'd like to give double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well. To the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds, preaching in truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect, Shalom. To the Israelite foreigners who phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father and have come back to the fold. Shalom. To you sisters, Achwathium, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence, and a Baba Ball. Kwam Yasharallah.